The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. It's Yvette Adams here from the Creative Collective, and I'm very excited to be presenting this webinar tonight, Considering a Business, brought to you on behalf of the Department of Employment, Economic Development and Innovation, that is also known as DD. So I'm presuming that by joining tonight's call, you're either considering starting a business, as the name suggests, or you're in the early stages of making a business and you'd like a few more tips. But even if you're a wee way down the track, I also applaud you for getting online, because if we can get a few more tips along the way, then that would certainly be a good thing as well. So this is our format for the evening. First up, I'll just do a little intro, and then we'll be revisiting some of the key points from the workbook. Now, when you registered, you would have been encouraged to download quite a comprehensive workbook that goes in association with this webinar. And if you want to get the absolute most out of today's session, then we do encourage you to go back and look at that workbook, work through the exercises, read, look at the case studies, and then compare it to some of the notes you may make from the webinar. Hopefully some of you have already done that, but if you haven't had a chance, you've been busy with the setup of your business or working in the business, or perhaps even a day job, and you haven't made that transition to starting the business yet, then that's completely understandable too. But I do really encourage you to go back to that. Finally, we'll review what we've covered from the workbook, and then we'll also give you the opportunity to ask questions. This is me. My name's Yvette Adams, as I said. That's what I look like. It's a picture of me out in my garden looking very corporate. I don't always look so corporate. Sometimes I look very relaxed because at one point I was just like you, considering a business, and I started my business from home. So sometimes I still do that. I dag about at home, and other times I suit it up and go and knock around with all the corporate types. I have won quite a few business awards, which I'm very proud to say, and I've been in business with the Creative Collective only about 3.5 years. I think the reason we've done okay with winning some of those businesses is that we've been innovative the whole way. We've taken on lots of knowledge like you are right now, and we've applied them to the very best of our abilities. So that's something I'd really encourage you to do, and again, I applaud you for getting on tonight. I've started 4 businesses from scratch actually. The Creative Collective is the third. And from starting all of those businesses, some of them are very small scale and some of them on a much bigger one, and then some of which have been sold. I've been through the whole evolution of business. So I hope tonight that I can share some of the tips that I experienced through starting businesses completely from scratch. Right now I'm the director and franchisor of the Creative Collective. We're a creative agency. We basically offer creative services such as website design, development, graphic design and print, PR and marketing, online marketing and so on. But we're really big into education as well. I love nothing more than training other people, because I love to give them the knowledge that they need to do really, really well in business, and that's why I'm online trying to help you here tonight. I do have experience working with startups, like I presume you are, right through the large corporates, and you know what? A lot of the same principles apply. Whether you're here locally, I'm on the Sunshine Coast, or whether you're somewhere else in Queensland, or I've dealt with people at an international scale. You know, you need to get these solid foundations in place in business first, and that's very much what we're talking about tonight. I'd also like to know, I'm a parent of a 4- and a 7-year-old, and my business has been started around the 2 of them. So let's get used to this technology, and if you click on the little red arrow that you should see probably in the top right area, you'll get an expanded window pane, and I'd like you to click on a hand and show us if you too are a parent juggling business or the startup idea that you have. Put your hand up if that's the case for you. Can you find the hand there? I haven't seen any hands. Maybe we have no parents in our midst. I can see the names. I can see Natasha's joined us, Melinda, Dion, and Alexandru. I hope I pronounced that right. Place a hand up if you're a parent and you're juggling it with your business as well, or will be when you get started. You place the hand up just by clicking in the hand area. Now, if you're not sure while we go through this, I do encourage you to drop a chat to Jag Quimby, who's online tonight, here to facilitate any technical queries you may be having. But this is interactive, it's not school. I don't want you to just sit back and listen. I want you to actually play with me. Tell me who you are and what's important to you. Then I can give you more myself. So moving on, that's me, and I do hope you interact with us tonight. These are the steps that I figure you need to go through if you're considering a business, and this is exactly what the workbook goes through as well. Step 1, you need to consider your suitability. We'll look at that closer and what that means in just a moment. Step 2, you need to consider your idea. Now, it's my experience that there's no shortage of good ideas around for new businesses and how you'll run your business and how you'll have a point of difference, maybe the manufacturing of a new product or a new way of offering a service, and that's all great. But where businesses really work is if that idea has been further explored, good foundations put down, so that's what we'll look at today as well. We've got to consider the market we're proposing to operate in. It's one thing to have an idea, but it's quite another to actually get it to market effectively and target your market, connect with your market. So we'll look at that. You need to consider your competition. Some people do very scant research when it comes to competition, only to discover there is quite a lot of competition once they get started. Consider the environment as well, and that's external, internal forces. Right now there's a lot going on in our environment, so we'll take a look at that. We'll also look at your finances. They need to be very carefully considered. And unfortunately, I will show you some stats tonight that show a lot of businesses don't last at early stages. So if you are careful with those finances from the start and you do your homework first, you shouldn't be one of those statistics. And finally, we'll overall consider your startup, and then we'll absolutely give you the opportunity to answer some questions. So does that sound good? Everybody happy with that? Raise your hand if you're quite happy with that. Have we found that little hand icon yet? Melinda has. Fantastic. Thanks for interacting with me, Melinda. How about you, Dion, Laura, Natasha? Dion has. Good stuff. It helps me know you haven't gone to sleep on me. Alexandra has too. Wonderful. Laura, Natasha, can I see a hand? And as Laura's just discovered, if you double-click on the hand, it goes away. And that's a really good practice to get into. Otherwise, I would presume you've got a question. So if you have a question on this, raise your hand. If you want to indicate yes, and I will be asking you, raise your hand. And do send us text as well. Throughout the night, I will be asking you to comment on different things as well. So to do that, scroll down to the bottom of that menu area. There'll be a little chat area. And just click on the plus button, and then it turns into like a MSN chat Skype type thing where you can actually type some words in there. I suppose it depends on how good your typing speed is, but I trust you're all business people, you'll all be okay with that. Right, let's, as I said, consider your suitability. Now, there's a lot of different things that you need to think about whether you're suitable for business, because sometimes people go into business, let's say, to become a plumber because they're okay at plumbing. They haven't necessarily thought about the financial aspects, you know. Are they good at books? Can they do their own accounts? And if not, that's okay, but can they get help? And if they're going to pay for that help, how much will they pay? And if they're going to get their wife to do it or a friend to do it, how long is that realistic for? Because it may sound easy at the start and then it gets a little bit difficult along the way. Marketing. Are they a good marketer? You know, do they know how to write an email? Do they know how to use the internet? Do they understand social media, which is a really great way to market yourself these days in business? Or do you need help with that? So be honest about those things. Management. Are you a good person to manage people or manage your own affairs? Or are you more of a doer, a technical person? You just like in there and doing that. Okay. Once you've considered that, you need to think about whether you're ready and able to conduct a business, because it's quite a transition to go on usually. Sometimes people start a business whilst they work full-time. So you're effectively trying to do a business and working full-time. That's quite a juggle. Are you going to give yourself a time frame, perhaps 6 months, perhaps a year, to get this business up and going? Are you just going to throw in the towel at your current employment and start the business just high and dry? You know, are you going to go out and get a loan? There's lots of different options there, so seriously consider those. I also want you to ask yourself really carefully, why are you going into business? And that's something I'd really like you to text me right now. Why are you thinking about going into business? I'd really like to know. Is it because you think you'll have an uncapped earnings potential? Money attracts some people. Is it because you'd rather be your own boss? You don't respond well to other management? Text me your answers now. Tell me what you're thinking. Is it because you want to spend more time with your children and you think running your own business will allow you to do that? Feel free to text me, because I'd really love to know why you're going into business. Next up, we need to think about some goals and actions. You know, you need to have some goals. It can't just be, I'm going to set up this business. Is it going to be, I'm aiming to have the best, you know, plumbing, we'll go back to that again, business in my area, Maroochydore, for instance, which is where I live? Is it because your goal is to earn, to equal the income you currently get from your employment within 1 year of operation? And if that's the goal, can you really withstand that? Have you got the funds behind you to do that? So seriously think about what your goals are. Do you want to be known as the premium product? Maybe you're going to sell cheese. You know, when I was involved in the Telstra Businesswomen's Awards program last year, it's some wonderful women who make cheese. And I'm pretty sure they set out with the goal to create the best cheese in Tasmania, and that they have done. You know, when I started one of my businesses, this was my second business, it was a t-shirt business. It was an online business. I started when I was 26 in 2002, and I was back in New Zealand for just around 6 months while I was living mainly in England at the time. And I remember it was overwhelming because I wrote a big long list, and I encourage you to do this too, of all the types of things that I needed to do to start this business. And my business plan was really as informal as that. I wrote a long list and I put it on the fridge. Now, I did okay with that business. I managed to build it up. I had sales from all around the world. It was very much an online, very lifestyle-friendly business, so if that was my goal, and it was, I certainly fulfilled that. You know, I could do some online marketing from an internet cafe in Buenos Aires to Argentina, which I did. I could have orders filled from London and New Zealand, and I could come up with new designs. All of that I could do. And over time I was able to sell it, and that was all very good. But, you know, I've had a lot better success with the Creative Collective, and I truly believe that's because I had some really good planning go into it. I did have some good skills, but I actually took the time to enroll in a government-funded program where once a month I would go along and just focus on the business. So it actually committed me to writing a business plan. So by the end of it, I had an 80-page business plan. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that all of you need to do that. A business plan can sometimes even be a couple of pages. But I do think the more planning you have in it, the better off you'll be. And as you can see there as well, your aim should be to thrive and not survive. Now, I've had some really great responses to my question, why am I going into business? So I might share them. I hope you don't mind. Dion has said, I'd like to be my own boss. Other reasons also, but that is one of the top reasons. Well, I appreciate that, Dion, because it is hard having people tell you what to do and whatever are the reasons. I tell people I'm a hopeless employee, but because I like doing what I want to do when I want to do it and in the way I want to do it, so it suits me. I wonder if you're that type of person too. Laura's got, I have a fantastic product to take to market and feel creatively the need to work hard for myself. It can be really rewarding, Laura, you're right, to work hard for yourself and creative expression. If it's a creative product, that sounds wonderful. So yeah, I'm curious to know more. And Melinda has shared many reasons for starting up my own business. Primarily, I like directing myself and making my own decisions. So that's a common theme with all of you. She's also got, I've proven to myself through jobs that I can execute well, and I want to see what I can generate from my ideas. Yes, there's certainly, you know, if you're the master of your own destiny, you've got no one else to blame or rely on than yourself, and it's certainly very rewarding when you do get somewhere, let me tell you. Next up, let's consider your ideas some more. So how will you go into business? Because lots of people go into business with the list like I did on my fridge, just, you know, lots of things they need to do. So, you know, for someone like Laura, she's got to get the product ready, and she's probably got to think of packaging depending on where it is, and she's probably got to think of where she's going to sell this thing. It may be markets, it may be a retailer. She may be selling it herself, she may be selling it through other people. She may be selling it online. But I want to make you aware at this point that there's a number of ways to go into business which people don't always consider. You know, have you talked to a business broker? Because maybe the business that you're looking at creating is actually already available for sale. And you can think, well, why would I want to pick up other people's baggage? It may be problems. But sometimes they're selling them for very good reasons. You know, maybe the people are retiring and it's actually a really thriving, really good little business. Maybe there's been a health issue. You know, unfortunately, you know, terminal illnesses do happen, and stress levels and marriage breakups and all sorts of life forces. That can mean it is a good business. It's just for sale right now. But even whether you buy a business from a business broker or not, they're really good people to go and talk to when you're considering a business. You know, take them out for coffee, go into their offices, write them an email, and ask them, how many businesses are there like this? You know, would I be able to create a good income? Can I see the figures? And they may even block out some of the names but show you some of the figures for those types of businesses. That could be excellent due diligence and information, so I hope that's a good tip for you. Another one is licensing. You know, sometimes there's fantastic products and services and brands out there. I mean, Jim's Mowing would be one that comes to mind, where you can buy a license to effectively operate a business of theirs using their great branding and their great systems, and that can work for you really well. Melinda's just asked, and I'm loving this interaction, where do you find a business broker? Well, I would literally Google business broker. You can also look up Yellow Pages. Even better, look up business broker, whatever your area is. I know in our local property magazine there's always business brokers and business listings that are associated. So just like you would see housing listings, you would see business broker listings. And she's put, should have known to Google it, of course. Of course, I do say Google it a lot. It's a pretty handy thing. Look, apart from licensing, there's distributorships as well. So perhaps, you know, they manufacture the product, they get it to you, they even send it out, which is good if you're talking about something with product and lots of housing and storage and stock. You can avoid all that stuff by just taking the orders and getting it shipped from somebody else. That can work really well. You can become an agent for somebody. You know, there's often lots of really busy business owners with really successful models. I've got a friend, for instance, who's a fashion stylist, and she wants people to effectively become an agent for her and go and do party plans in women's houses and promote her products, her clothing lines, which she gets from somewhere else. She's got all the suppliers. Now, for a mum or someone who's into fashion, that's an ideal lifestyle thing. They can go and do these party plans, as many or as little as they like. And she has the suppliers, and she has the system, the sales scripts, and all of that kind of thing ready to go. Another option is you could buy a business. So apart from talking to a broker, getting information, you could actually go and buy something like I mentioned. Or there's also franchises. Now, sometimes franchises get a bad rap because they're a fairly highly legislated area of business, but sometimes they really are proven. And if you don't know if you've necessarily got the skills to deliver on a business, maybe you need to consider some of these options where you have got a little bit more support, there's a track record, and there's a bit of a system. So I'd like to know, hands up, if you had already considered entering a business using one of those models, a licensee, brokerage, distributorship, agent. Was that something you were considering before? Hands up, anybody? Or are we looking at brand new, from scratch, let's do all the hard yakka ourselves type businesses? Perhaps we are. The other thing, point on this page, which is really important to highlight, is there demand for your product or service, and what are you basing this on? Too often I hear of businesses looking to start up, and when I probe a little further, and I love working with them and finding out, you know, what are you basing this on? They'll say, oh, because all my friends have this problem. And I would really suggest that you look at it a little bit closer, which brings me to the market. When you're looking at starting a business, you really need to identify your target market, and you really need to be as specific as possible. By specific, I mean you need to consider where are your market. That's geographic. It covers this in the workbook. Do have a look at it. You need to think about the demographic. What's the age? What's the gender? You know, what are these people into? Now, in some of our future webinars, we talk about attracting new customers. If you come on that webinar, you'll learn a lot more marketing strategies, and we do look at, in a lot more detail, the target market. But psychographic is yet another way. You know, how do these people think? What is their behaviours? You know, do they hang out at cafes? Do they drink red wine? Do they like to yacht? Where do your target market hang out? Be as specific as possible. I'll give you an example along those lines just quickly. We were talking to a sort of premium dentist who did a lot of cosmetic stuff, you know, whitening and straightening and that kind of stuff. And he was thinking of traditional advertising to connect with his target market, you know, saying maybe corporate women, so we thought of business women's magazines, etc. But when we got down to it a little bit further, you know, there were some common threads like coffee stains your teeth, so does red wine. So we said, why don't you target wine clubs? What about yachting clubs? He said they're often, you know, people whose children have moved out of home and now they're finally doing something for them, perhaps something they've wanted to do for a long time. So that helped us be really specific, and there were some really innovative marketing strategies that came out of that. Consider the customer's needs. Well, in that case, their needs would be that they wanted to look more beautiful. What are your customers' needs specifically? Just going to go back to some of these notes which have come through. And Melinda said she's starting a business from scratch. Good to know. Pretty common. Laura's got, have considered just importing and taking the orders, but there's no infrastructure for my product. Well, that's good you're aware of that, and it sounds like you've done some due diligence on your options already. And that's what this is all about tonight. I'm trying to be that friend to ask you all the angles, not to catch you out, but to make sure you've got a good solid idea and you're going to go forth and be really, really successful. So attracting and retaining customers, you know, there's lots of options there. There's online types of marketing, there's offline being magazines and PR and advertising. We'll talk more about them in future webinars, so come on those if you'd like to know more. Customer service, you know, that's such a big one. You know, it's great, for instance, who was it that was going to be creating a product? Laura. So it's fantastic if you've got a product idea, but I want to know how many can you potentially create if you're creating them, and how can you service demand as it perhaps grows. I love going to the markets and getting these individual pieces, but you've got to consider capacity. How many do you actually have to create? How many do you actually have to sell to make whatever income you need, you've decided you need? And are you able to service it? If you're going to be a one-person band, are you really able to talk to all the people on the phone, answer all the emails, do all the finances and marketing, all the things you're going to need to do in business to offer a good customer service? Because we all know if you don't, people won't come back. And at the start of business, it's very easy to think you will, and over time as you grow, it's much harder. And I'll tell you from the benefit of hindsight, when I started, it was amazing how many clients I could look after, and I believe looked after very well, you know, maybe 100 all by myself. But now as I get staff, they're never going to be as passionate as you. You've got to train them and motivate them and give them skills and tools to do it as best as you can, but perhaps your capacity to deliver is not going to be quite as high as when you're in there at the forefront. And let's face it, if you have visions of growing the business, that's not always going to be possible. So be realistic. Consider your marketing and what are your options as well. And here's the 4 Ps which sort of sum up marketing. What's your product? Is it good? What's your price? Is it competitive? Too high, too low, just right? What's the placement? Are you going to have a retail store in the market, sell online? That's your placement. And how are you going to promote the stuff? Because, you know, you can make the most amazing pies. They're the best in the world, maybe judged and awarded. But if nobody knows about them, how are you going to make a good business? That's pretty important to consider as well. Now, look, I don't usually like focusing on the negative things at all, but I do hope you understand that there are some pretty scary stats around businesses, and here are some of them. Business failures are on the rise, and I only have some sort of older ones there, but I can tell you that they're even higher now. Personal bankruptcies continue to increase as well because people don't always set up the right financial structures. They don't always give the forethought they need to in setting up a business. There's an ASIC, which stands for the Australian Security Investments Commission, a report that showed 40% of businesses in Australia fail because of inadequate cash flow. So sometimes it's not because you're not getting the demand, it's not because you're not raising the invoices, it's because the money is not coming in fast enough for you to pay for more product or your expenses and your cost of sales. So cash flow is really important. You know, what are your terms of business going to be? How are you going to administrate the accounts? What system will you use? Can you automate that? For instance, we use a great software called FreshBooks, where we raise invoices and the system automatically follows people up. And we've got it set up to say we're a 7-day payment terms, and after 7 days a message goes out. It's very polite and gentle, but after 14 another and another, and by 30 days they've had 4 messages and it's automatically gone out without somebody having to remember to do it, without me relying on an accounts person, without me having to sit down and physically go through the accounts. So that's a really good system, and there's others like it. And I seriously encourage you to invest in a system, investigate your time, and investigate your money to find the right one. And they don't need to be that expensive either. The other thing to know is we're all Queenslanders presumably online tonight. We actually accounted for the highest number of business-related personal bankruptcies in 2009, with more than 1,000 in 1 year. I actually personally know of a few people who have fallen into that category in recent weeks. Some of them very wealthy, very well-established business people, so that can even happen to the best of them. And I hope it's not you, and I hope that you'll take away this information and really consider it hard and get it into place so that it definitely isn't you. So apart from cash flow, the other one that a lot of people struggle with is growth. Now that's a sort of multi-edged sword, because growth can be growing too fast and not able. Melinda said she's in New South Wales. That's totally okay. You can see we've got some New South Wales stats on you on there anyway. You're very welcome. So managing growth, it can be too slow, so they're not getting enough volume going through to grow at the pace they want, or they're growing too fast and they can't sustain the orders, they can't give the good customer service, and things can go wrong. So just be aware of those facts. Now, I think you've heard enough from me rabbiting on, so I actually want to volunteer now for a live SWOT analysis. So I'd love someone to put up their hands and volunteer for me to run through a little competitor analysis. Don't be scared. I'll be very kind. I'm here to help you, not embarrass you. So just raise your hand, whoever's keen. In the meantime, I'll keep talking while one of you decides that you're going to help me out. Oh, go Laura. She's volunteered. Thanks, Laura. I'm going to unmute you in just a moment. But for now, what we're talking about here is competition. When you're starting a business, you need to really consider who are my competitors. Now, if I had $1 for every time someone said, I really don't have any competitors, I would be a very rich person. Because I know you may not have someone who's selling the exact same thing at the exact same price in the exact same place, or maybe you do. But there will be people who are selling similar things in a similar place, in a similar way, or who people could choose to spend their money with. You know, just today I met with a big venue on the Sunshine Coast, and although they sort of said we've got no competitors here where we are, we're one of the biggest, we've got good prices, there are still other choices when hiring a venue for a wedding or a music concert or whatever it may be. So they do have competitors. They need to intimately know who they are, what they're doing, when they're doing it, make sure they're in line. So let's unmute Laura, if you wouldn't mind, Jag.
Hello.
Laura, can you hear me?
I can.
I haven't got her sound coming across just yet. Jag, can you try unmuting Laura? Oh, she is unmuted. Laura, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I've got a faint sound, but perhaps you could turn up a volume or something like that.
Is that any better?
I can vaguely hear you. We might be able to manage. Can you hear me good, though?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, we'll battle on. Now, I'm just going to exit out, and I'm going to pull up the little document I prepared earlier, not that one, this one. Okay, Laura, tell me more about your business. What stage you're at and what are you doing?
I'm at ground zero. I have done nothing but write notes and talk to people on phones as to how to go about starting a business.
Okay, Laura, I found my volume control. I'm so sorry. Would you mind repeating that? I can totally hear you now.
Okay. I'm at ground zero. I have done nothing but talk to people, to agencies like yourself and Dee Dee and things like that about possibly starting a business, and I have an idea, and that's it.
That's fine. Do you know who your competitors are, possibly?
There are a couple of competitors, but like you said, at the moment, it's not a big thing that I can find in the supermarkets or the shops or anything like that. It is a food product, I should say.
Okay, sure. It's a food product. Is it something that you're looking to manufacture yourself, produce yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Cool. All right. So without naming names, because we'll just keep it, you know, for the sake of your business and the sake of your competitors saving face, let's just call it competitor one. But I want you to have someone in mind who is potentially a competitor. Can you do that for me?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So whilst thinking of this competitor, and this is an exercise I encourage all of you to go away and do, what is that competitor's strengths? What are the things they're really good at?
in the shops.
In the shops. So they're in the supermarkets?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Have they got nice packaging? Have they good prices?
No. It's a very unknown product. People don't use it because at the moment what you can get is not very good quality.
Okay, not good quality. I think that's a weakness. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, opportunities product not known is an opportunity to me, because if you could make it be known and make there be demand for it, then you could do all right. Do you agree?
Yes, definitely.
Any others we could enter thinking of that competitor one? What are their other strengths?
I don't know, actually. It's not something that I thought of from their perspective. I've thought of it from my perspective, but not from their perspective. So.
Okay. Well, could I encourage you to go away and do this a little more? Like, be really honest, be really frank. And if you look at their packaging and go, yeah, it is pretty good packaging, or they seem to be quite established, they obviously got some sort of warehousing distribution thing, I'm not going to have that to start with. That's going to be a strength over you. But by doing this, even let's say they didn't even have that and the product was not known, you can start to discover things you can compete with them on. That's why we do this. And even when you're really established in business, I tend to do this on an annual basis. Some businesses would need to do this on a weekly or monthly or quarterly basis, depending on how competitive the environment is, because it changes, you know. So what I did to help with this process, because I was too busy to do it, and if I rang up and I said my name, they're going to know who I am and where I'm from, and they're going to tell me to go away. So I actually had a university student come in, and I gave her a script, and I asked her to call some of our people and pretty much mystery shop them. So she pretended that she was from, she was just an individual freelance marketing consultant, and she rang up and she gave them a scenario that I know someone's starting a business and I need help with the branding and we need a website. Can you give me some prices? And we did this analysis based on what they produced back. So we looked at how long did it take for them to get an estimate, how nicely presented was the estimate, what was the pricing like compared to us, what was their customer service like. We actually discovered that if we could, for quite a number of them, there was no phone answered or a message was taken and it was not returned. And very few of them actually raised an estimate, which said to us, this is a great environment. If we can just answer the phone and provide an estimate, we're doing really, really well. So that gave us actually a lot of reassurance. Other times, this can be a rude awakening, and it can make you go, I've actually got to pick up my game here, you know. So do you want to think about competitor two, just to quickly think of from their eyes while we've got you?
There is only one that I've been able to find, and it's only stocked in well, we'll say all the major supermarkets. And there's only one brand that I can find, and yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, look, you've thought about placement there. What about promotion? Are they promoting it anywhere? Do they have social networks set up? Are they in magazines?
No, it's not a product. I should probably tell you what the product is, but it's just not a product that is at this stage well known here. However, I think as soon as you say it, people will go, oh yeah, but the stuff that you get is really horrible, and no one eats it. And you'll probably know, you know, from living overseas yourself, you would completely identify with that. Because we're from England, so it's something that is quite popular over there, but is not here, but would do quite well.
Okay. Cool. Well, I hope from that exercise, and thanks so much for volunteering, that you will be encouraged to go away and do this, and I hope some of you guys will also learn something from that. So do it with a friend, do it with a partner, do it on your own, but do it. Look at your competitors at the start, considering your business, and please do it later down the track too. Don't even think, I did it once, it's all sorted, I know I'm right, because you may not be. I'm now going to share a poll. I just want to check, Jag, did that poll go out okay? Bring up the website. I'm not sure. Click show poll, he's saying to me. I'm sorry, but I thought I had. I want to get you to, this is more interaction stuff. We like to make you do stuff, so like I said, you don't go to sleep. You know what, Jag, I can't even see that button. You can't see it, can you? Or start. And I click manage polls, it's saying there are no polls associated, even though I did set one up earlier. No, I don't want to waste time, so I'm not quite sure what happened there, people. So we'll just forget that idea for now, and we will go back to our presentation. Okay, here we go. All right, so that's all the SWOT analysis is. So if you've always heard that bandied about and you've wondered what does it mean and am I silly not to know it? No, you're not. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Do yourself up a simple crisscross like that and start placing in items. And you know what? I use this little analysis sometimes to do all sorts of things in business. If I'm making a big decision, just weighing up anything, it's a good way to just look at it from all angles. But the short message of this competitor area is, can you compete or beat the competition? And I hope you like my choice of picture, because often the young new ones think they're going to easily outrun the ones who have been around perhaps a little bit longer. Not always the case. When you start looking at it, you could be up some pretty strong competition. Now, another really important thing to look at is actually the environment. And by the environment, I don't necessarily mean the world we live in terms of natural environment. There's also internal factors and external factors. Now, right now, there is a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of stuff going on in Australia. You know, we have interest rates going up, we have petrol prices going up. These are factors which can really impact on your business. So, I've been reading a lot of Richard Branson lately. I really like him. I don't know if any of you have read him. Put your hand up if you've read a few Richard Branson books. Perhaps he's a little source of inspiration. Melinda and Natasha have. Yeah, he's quite wonderful, isn't he? So, setting up your business, you know, he was just saying in a chapter I was reading last night how when he set up Virgin, not that long into it, the Kuwait 1991 Iraq war happened, and, you know, petrol went through the roof. And it was 20% of his cost of sale was airline fuel. And so it went up by a significant amount, all his expenses, and therefore his profitability was dramatically affected. So before you go into business, give some consideration to what factors would impact on your business and what you can do as a backup plan. You know, just recently we've had cyclones here and floods in Queensland, and I couldn't help but watching sunrise and the likes as it all unfolded. Thinking to myself, of course, I hope those people are safe and okay and are taking the necessary measures. But I also couldn't help but think, I wonder when they last backed up, and I wonder what computer systems they've got set up and what will their ability to mobilise and work again will be. Because it's fine to get through the webinar, but it's not fine if you are not able to continue. Now, Jag, I just wanted to highlight to you, the duration is saying 60 minutes, and it's now at that. Do we need to extend the duration? He's saying that's fine. I thought that was worth checking. All right. So for you, do political impacts, are they going to affect you? For instance, I've just been in Fiji recently. You know, they have coups and things. Are you looking to get coconut oil, which is a big export of Fiji, because, you know, that's part of your massage therapy business? Will that impact on you? Global, what's happening in the world, how will that impact on you? Because even if Australia's economy is fine, what about if Iceland or Pakistan's is not? What about technology? What if things progress? If you're relying on technology and, you know, things progress and the service you're offering is no longer needed, then what will you do? What are the social impacts? You know, perhaps people go out at the moment and you're looking at starting a new bar, but then money gets tight because of all these other factors, and they stop going out to have a glass of wine and dinner, and it gets really quiet. And I know, for instance, that's something that's very much happening right now. So look at all of these things, look at future forecasts, use trends and resources and research and development and contacts to just check this all. So I'd like you to text whether you can foresee any environmental factors that you'll need to consider for the business you're thinking of going into. You know, are there any political ones, and what are they? Are there any global ones, technology ones, social ones, environmental ones? Have you thought about those things? Okay, I believe you may not have just heard that last part, that screen. I hope that's coming up okay. I was just talking about the environmental factors and how we have within environmental factors, political factors, global factors, technological factors, social factors and environmental factors. So I've asked you to text through any factors you think that could be impacting on your business once you get started. Okay, Laura heard it all. Thanks for that assurance. That's great. All right, finances. Consider your finances. How will you go into business? Because it's great to say I'm just going to do it and I'm going to do it on no money. And I can tell you I've made businesses like that. I started a newspaper when I was 17 like that. I had no prior investment, but I did get brought out by an American entrepreneur who claimed I stole his idea, which I didn't. And he offered to buy me out after my first issue. Pretty exciting stuff, sitting around a boardroom table, 17 with my dad, a teacher, no prior business experience. Didn't drive a hard bargain, probably could have got more looking back. My second business, how did I go into it? Well, tikanga t-shirts. I just used the money I was earning as an employee and I set it up on the side. I didn't need a lot of outlay. All I was doing was creating some t-shirts, and because I had the know-how, I created a website and I got a friend to do some graphic design. I did pay her, but on a reduced rate. But how would you go into business? Do you have friends you can call some shots with? Are they really up to it? Do they really have the time? Because too often I hear of friends going to do some design and do some websites and do some favors along the way, but it just doesn't always work out. Sometimes it's not worth paying friends or working with friends. Secondly, is there demand for your product or service, and what are you basing this on? You know, you can't base it on, I've had a chat to a few people at a barbecue and they all said they'd buy it. Ideally, you'll do some actual solid market research, maybe some surveys, that kind of thing, maybe some focus groups, maybe some polls. You can do all that kind of stuff on Facebook these days and other social networks as well. You need to think about what income you need to survive. So it's a good idea when you start off financially to do yourself up a personal budget. What's yours? What will you continue to earn through maybe a part-time or a full-time job? What's all your expenses? You know, school term fees and electricity and phone and things most people just can't avoid. And off that, what's left over? Can you invest that? Does that mean not going on a holiday this year? Or does that mean being a bit tighter with the grocery budget for a while so you can invest into the business? Apart from your personal budget, there's some really great little templates and resources in the workbook. So again, I encourage you to go back and look at those. There may well be establishment costs. Like I said, you know, are you planning on having a website? Do you need a logo made? Do you need business cards made? Do you need to buy some equipment in order to run this business? Do you need to get a new printer or a new computer? So there are establishment costs. Get a good handle on all those things and how much they'll cost. I never forget that I had a bit of a wish list when I got started. I put it up there and it seemed huge and there were so many things on there, you know. There was computers and printers and I needed all sorts of things. And I thought, how am I ever going to afford all that stuff? But, you know, gradually by bit I did get it and I ticked it off as I went until the list was gone, and then I wrote a new one of even more outlandish things. So get a handle on your establishment costs. Think about your operational costs, because there will be initial costs and in the future. You know, if you grow, if you get new staff, do you need new phone lines? Do you need more laptops? Do you need more equipment? And then what will those costs be? You need to think about your income streams too. You know, a good solid business may have one income stream, but it's even more solid if it has multiple. You know, for me, I'm in this great position where we get money from creative services such as building the websites and things, but we also get an ongoing stream through hosting websites and buying domain names off people. We also sell products, so we have these multiple revenue streams. So even if, let's say, websites weren't very popular for 1 month or 6 months even, we could possibly get business from the other areas, the marketing, the graphic design, and so on. And that stands us in good stead in a market that is constantly changing because of technology. Natasha's asked me, how much do you worry about people stealing your idea when you're trying to do market research about your product? Well, you don't have to necessarily give a lot away. Look, if you're doing a focus group or something like that, you may get them to sign a confidentiality agreement before they come along and sit down there if you were going to share quite a lot about the product. That can happen. You may do a poll and you may just ask general questions, you know. let's say you were launching an organic hair care range. You may ask them, do you use organic products? You know, not even asking about the hair care. How much do you pay? Where do you tend to get them from? Is it the health store? Is it the supermarket, etc.? So you can still build information through that market research without giving that idea away. There's also a significant amount you can do online through paid software. You may need a professional to help you with that kind of stuff, where they can analyse how many people are searching those words, and therefore what is the demand and how many competitors are there. There's some great software that could really help you to find out what's going on there. Look, in short, with this financial side of things, you really need to have your finances in order. I, for instance, am about to buy commercial premises, which is another stage of our business. And the big thing I've had to do is relook at my personal budget, look at where money's coming in, where it's going out, then look at the company budget right now, and then look at the forecast company budget. So I've had to do 3 budgets, and the forecast one is adding in all the new expenses of taking on premises, things like you know, rent and electricity and phones and all that sort of thing, which currently are not required. So make sure you get really organised with your finances, and if you're not that organised type, you don't like spending time on finances, you find it a bit of a headache, which I admit sometimes I do, get help. Go and see an accountant, a bookkeeper, a financial advisor, and get that help. Here's another thing, what will you charge? You know, you might think, oh, well, if I, you know, charge $100, I only buy the stuff for 50, so I'm making $50, that's great. But have you really considered all the different expenses, the phone and the ink and the stationery you'll need to run the business, and how much that impacts on the price? You know, I've seen people do exercises, or I've done them with people. There was a landscape gardener, for instance, and he was charging, I think it was $80 an hour, which he thought was really good, because $80 an hour is so much money compared to what you get from. Worked out how many jobs a week he was doing and what his petrol fees were and what all his equipment maintenance was and all that kind of stuff. We worked out every hour he was working, he was losing $5 an hour that he had to up his rates. And the light bulbs went on, he was completely shocked, all because he'd never actually worked those sorts of figures out. Now we do have future webinars coming up more on finances. So if this is an area you feel you're weak in, you'd like some more knowledge, please jump online for those. So could I see your hand raised, people, if you already have a personal budget? Have you already got one of those ready? Let's see how well organised you are. Hands up if you have a personal budget. Nobody. Oh, dear. We're going to have a late hand going up. If you don't, that's your homework, people. Start there. And then second part is start doing some forecasted budgets of what you may need. Now, there are some great templates on the website I'm going to show you in just a moment. Right, consider your startup. We're on the home stretch. Legal and regulatory issues. Now, there's lots of things here you need to consider too. Like, if you're going to run a home-based business, you may, if you want to keep it really legal, need to check with your local council as to whether they're okay with you running a home business. There's a great website called Smart License, which you can Google, which is a government one. We go through a series of questionnaires, and it helps you analyse whether you need to get certain licenses. For instance, if you're a photographer, if you're going to take photos on location, you may need to get special licenses to shoot in those locations, because if someone came across and said, you know, what are you doing, you may need to prove that you have a legal right to be there. You need to explore the business structure you'll operate in. Now, when I ran Tikanga Teas, I didn't have any idea of that sort of thing, so it was me, myself and I owned the business. I thought that was a good thing. But in later years, I actually worked with an incredible woman who knew a lot about asset protection. And she was an ex-accountant and an economist and an all-round amazing fountain of knowledge. And she taught me all about things like discretionary trusts and how important it is to have different entities and to put different assets into those, whether that be a property or trademarks and intellectual property or trading entities. So there can be costs in setting up these things, but it's a really good idea to go and talk to a good lawyer, a good accountant about the best structure for you, because I can't possibly say which one would suit you. Now, Laura said that she did do this, the Smart License, I presume, and she needs 7 different licenses to start. Well, Laura, I imagine that was a bit of a shock. So I bet it's good to know at least what you need, and you can put those in your wish list as expenses you're going to incur, work them into the budget, tick them off slowly, and know that you've done it all right from the start. Other things you may need to look at for legal and that kind of stuff is insurances. You know, if you run events, you need to have quite high public liability. Professional indemnity, if you're giving any kind of advice, you need that sort of thing too. I encourage you to go see an insurance broker who can see across different suppliers and find the right insurance solution for you. There's also an insurance ombudsman, and they can put you in touch with people that will suit your industry and suit what you're trying to do. For instance, with us, we kind of are involved in lots of different things. We can't sort of go to an insurance person and say, this is what we do, because we do all these other things. So they have been really useful for us to talk to in regards to that. You know, staffing. What are your legal obligations for staffing? There's been lots of changes in the law. There's fairwork.gov.au, which is a good resource to be aware of. But also you may want to, or presume you'll employ them on a contractor basis. Maybe they'll invoice you and they'll pay their own super and they'll do their own tax. But these days there's some parameters around that. They do so many hours and they're only working for you. They're actually being staff and you need to pay super and things anyway. So again, talk to a HR person, talk to a lawyer, make sure you get good advice and don't get caught out here. You know, look at access to finance. Have you got a good relationship with a bank manager? Do you know a mortgage broker? Is anyone like that going to, or is it going to be a parent or a partner or someone who's going to be the bank and provide you with money when you need it and advice in that area? What bank accounts do you need? Now that's one I'd certainly encourage business owners to do, and that is have a separate business and personal life one. It gets really hard to bookkeep. If all you do is one thing out of this, please have separate business accounts and personal accounts, and just therefore take money in and put money in that's related to business and only take money out that's related to business, and then bookkeeping becomes very easy. So has anyone got their business bank account, dedicated account set up? Anyone already done that on the list of things to do? No one putting their hand up yet? It's another piece of homework for a lot of you then. An ABN, or an Australian business number. Now that's abr.gov.au. If you want to work as a sole trader or just get a business number which you need to trade in Australia, go to the abr.gov.au. I might actually text you some of these, that would be sensible. It's a pretty easy process, and look, even if you're not ready to trade straight away, you can get this. It's not going to cost you any money to apply for it or have it. It's a good thing to just get done and have ready to go. Solicitors as well. I would encourage you to get a good lawyer on your side. Look, we do talk a lot more about business planning and all this sort of thing, continuity planning, so do get on future webinars as well where we talk about this a whole lot more. Do consider where you'll work from. Location is important too. So are you going to work from home? Are you going to rent premises? How long's the lease? My advice would be that right now there is a lot of room to negotiate on leases and things. They may furnish it. They may let you have some period free. In the area I live in, I'm not sure about the rest of Queensland, but it's quite possible. Highly negotiable terms. So make sure you're aware of that. All right, so this is what we've covered. I told you we're at the home stretch. We've considered our suitability, haven't we? We've considered our idea. We have considered the market, our competition. We've considered the environment. We've considered our finances, and we've considered our startup. So I hope that's given you a good all-round overview of the types of things you need to consider when setting up a business. Now, I'd really like to open it up for questions now, and here's a few suggestions on things you might like to talk about. This is an open forum. I hope that by getting on, even if you're looking at operating by yourself, you know, this is a good chance to share your fears, share the things you're excited about, ask me anything at all, and I'll be happy to either help you or point you in the right direction. So put your hand up if you would like to be unmuted and have a chat, and I hope some of you will use this opportunity. No hands? Come on, don't be shy. I'll push on otherwise. Isn't someone not going to share some enthusiasm with me at least? About how excited they are about their new business they're starting or have already started? Have I hushed you with, silenced you with all this information? I hope not. Last chance, put your hand up if you would like to ask a question. Make a comment, anything at all. You have been on the whole very interactive though, and I appreciate that. It's wonderful. Okay, I will push on then and wrap up. Oh, here we go. Laura's made a comment. Good on you. Failure is the biggest fear and the need to pay the mortgage. Well, that's very true. We all have these mortgages, and my advice for that one would be to feel the fear and do it anyway, but do it in a way which is calculated, planned, researched, and that you've made good, calculated, educated decisions, and you've got knowledge on board, and you've used resources and things, and just surround yourself with good people. Melinda's asked me, do you have any tips on choosing a company name? I've got several domain names registered, but not yet registered a company name. That is a really good point, Melinda. It's one that a lot of people get mixed up. There's a number of steps you need to go through when choosing a name, and a lot of people I've met rush out and go to Office of Fair Trading and grab the business name and think that they're okay to trade. Well, look, you've got that name registered there, but the order you should ideally go through is to search #1 trademarks, because you don't want to come up against someone with that same name and then need to change it, because if this was a game of cards, trademark is trumps, all right? Apart from trademark, then you can go on ASIC. Oh, actually, while I'm here, I'll give you the trademark website. That's the Intellectual Property Australia, so there it's coming through. Once you get on there, go to search trademarks and look for the Atmos database, that is. And you can run some searches on names and things. Now it comes into classes too. So let's say I run a, I don't know, a painting business. There may be a category for paint if I sell paint, or painting if I'm offering painting services. So you need to register for both classes. This is really tricky, actually, trademarks. You may be best to get a lawyer on. They're not cheap. They can be quite drawn out. Mine took a good 2 or 3 years to get, but I did get it, and now it really significantly adds value to my business. So start there. Then look at ASIC, which I'm going to send you now, and find out if there are other registered businesses in your area with that name. And even if there are, who are they and what are they doing? And finally is the domain searches. So that's the order I would do it in, because actually in Australia there's some unusual legislation, which is that you're not supposed to have the domain name unless you are the registered business for that name as well, or unless you are otherwise and substantially closely related with that name, which you kind of need to prove. So I hope that gives you some tips, but you may need some legal advice in that area. All right, thank you for your questions. Future webinars, guys, if you've enjoyed tonight, it's only an hour of your time. We run them after hours, 7:30 Queensland time often, which the next 3 are. Otherwise at lunchtimes, 12:30. We do record them. Of course, it's better to get on the live event. You get to interact with me, you get to ask questions, but if you absolutely can't make it, we are making recordings of all the past webinars available, and we've had wonderful guest speakers on some of them and amazing stuff come out. So you can look on smallbusinesswebinars.com.au to see the recordings later in the week, and you can register on either one of these websites. And the best thing, best thing, they're free. So please, please tell everyone about this webinar that you went on and how useful it was, I hope, and how much you enjoyed it, I hope, and get other people on the future ones. So remember, I said there's some great resources out there. Let me just quickly take you to business.qld.gov.au. It's an extensive website. If you haven't been on here, which you probably have to register, if you haven't had a really good look around, I strongly encourage you to. Let's see, budget template. Let's see if I can find something along those lines on here. Farm budget template, allocate budget, action plan. There are literally all sorts of resources, so go through and see what you can find. Budgeting template, I reckon that might be just what we're looking for. You've got, do you offer a way of the participants getting in touch outside of the webinar? Now, Melinda, that's a really nice idea, and we haven't been asked it before, although I have done it on other programs. I might put that forward to Dee Dee. How about that? It's not something that's been asked. Oh, I can tell you recently that business.qld.gov.au has its own Facebook and social network, so that might be a good place to go and have a look, get to know one another, and keep in touch. Oops. Okay, so there is also, I want to make you aware, a 1300 number, did you know? 1300 363 711. If you're stuck, you have a business decision, you need some help, ring that number, ask them, and they will point you in the right direction or help you too. So if you can't find it on the website, and it is rather large, they will help you get straight there. Will that work for New South Wales as well? I haven't been asked that question either before. Give it a go. See what they say. I don't think they'll turn someone from New South Wales away. At the end of the day, we're all business owners. They all need help. And I think if they're a nice person, they would try and help you as best they can. Now, JAG is just in the process of texting you via chat a link. And it's a link to a quick survey. And we'd love you to stay online and tell us what you thought of tonight's presentation. It'll only take you a few minutes. That suggestion, Melinda, of keeping in touch with one another would be a great one to put in there. But tell me what worked for you. Was it too slow? Was it too fast? Was there too much information? Was there not enough? What else would you like to see us cover in topics? We've got a contract to continue delivering these until June. There's lots of topics coming up, and we need your feedback to keep them going, to keep making them good, to keep making them better. We do listen. We read each and every one of them. So thank you, Natasha. She said thank you for your time. It's a great resource, much appreciated. You've all been very grateful and really great and interactive. Not a lot of talking live, but lots of texting, and that's been really cool. So thank you for getting on once again tonight. Please stay online, do that survey. I look forward to reading through those first thing in the morning, and I look forward to seeing you maybe next week on the Strengthening Your Business. Do go ahead and register though. Lots of people registering already. I'll see you on there. Good night.